Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Tuesday, the 17th of December. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined this morning for the first time this week by Jonny McFarlane. How's it going, Jonny?
Pleased to be here, Derek. Lots to talk about, that's for sure.
Yeah, there absolutely is. Of course, we're still talking about all the fallout from Sunday's League Cup final. And the big news yesterday, well, Patrick Stewart officially began his position as CEO at the club. One of the first tasks, I think, that was in his inbox to-do list was to seek clarification from the SFA over the non-penalty award for Václav Cerny in the game on Sunday. We understand the Ibrox hierarchy have sought clarification over the incident that saw VAR official Alan Muir fail to correctly intervene after a free kick was awarded for a foul on Cerny. So Rangers seeking clarification on that. They're looking for answers from Willie Collum, Jonny, which I think is absolutely right and well within their rights to do so. We're all looking for answers and an explanation as to why Rangers were not awarded a penalty kick at the first half of extra time at Hampden. Firstly, on that, we'll discuss what Chris Boyd had to say yesterday on it as well, which I think was really strong-worded statement from him on it. But your view on the penalty incident, what did you make of it?
It's a terrible, terrible, terrible decision, clearly. And Rangers are absolutely right to seek answers from the SFA. Quite how this has happened, we don't know, but we absolutely need to find out. Rangers need to demand the audio. We need to demand the thought process. We need to demand the situations that occurred, because that is unacceptable. VAR is there to pick up those instances. VAR is there to double check in scenarios like that. Literally, the minute that happens on the edge of the box, the first thing VAR is there to do is to go, right, give me the camera on the side so I can check if it's inside or outside the box. It's clearly inside the box. It's on the line, therefore inside the box. So there's no two ways about it, Derek. This is factual. This is not subjective. I notice a lot of people, supporters of other clubs on Twitter, are doing the usual, suggesting it's a foul outside the box and all that.
Yeah, I know.
It's just absolutely preposterous, some of the stuff that comes up in Scottish football. Totally and utterly embarrassing the way some people behave.
Exactly.
It's clearly a situation where play is allowed to continue. To be honest, I'm not even sure if that initial challenge by Scales is a foul, but play is allowed to continue, and then he's pulled down, and then he's booked for the pull. So there's just no situation where anyone who's not biased would say that that's not a penalty. It's factual. It's not subjective. So it's a really, really embarrassing one for Willie Collum. I fully expect that he will come out in the days ahead and hold his hands up and say, look, this is an error. They got it wrong. It's not the first time that VAR have got something completely wrong, got it in their heads that there's not something there, and there is. We think back to the situation with Seema and the handball by, I think it was Alistair Johnson, where VAR just said, no, that's not a handball. It's not a handball. Now, we know subsequently that there was actually an offside in the earlier phase of play. That's neither here nor there. That was a situation that was clear-cut that VAR did not see properly. And I think we've got the same situation again. But this one is far, far more serious, Derek, because it's not subjective. As I say, it's fact. So I think Rangers are right to pursue this and right to pursue it in the strongest possible manner, because you just can't allow cup finals to be decided like this. And I think, sadly, from a Rangers point of view, this is the second cup final between these two clubs that's been decided on something that's factually wrong, because we know that there's no doubt that Christopher Julian was offside back in the last League Cup final between the two clubs that was on a knife edge. And look, the VAR wasn't in place then, so that's one that's a separate issue. But this one, There has to be some serious soul searching in the SFA about quite how the VAR team were unable to just check the facts, because the facts absolutely speak for themselves.
Yeah. Willie Collum, since taking over from Crawford Allen, wants the review process to be more transparent. I would imagine Rangers would be seeking the audio, the communication between referee and the VAR room. I think it's well within their rights to do so. Whether we get that or not is another matter. I know when you touched on that incident last season, Jonny, when Rangers were seeking the audio with regards to the SEMA incident, we never actually got it in the public domain. So
yeah, I heard it, but
yeah, but not Joe Blogs out on the street.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. I mean, the thing is they should release it, but they'll always base these decisions based on how damning it is. You know, if it's going to kick up a hornet's nest, they won't. But I think what's happened here, I am not one for conspiracy. I don't believe in that. I believe in competence and incompetence, human error. And I suspect what's happened there is they've just made a mistake and not properly judged it from the right angle. That's the only thing that you can think, Derek.
Yeah.
But time will tell if there's more to come out than that. Then I'm sure it will all come out in the wash, because Willie Collum has been very transparent. He has been very open about the processes. That's undeniable. You know, he started the show. I think he does it with Gordon Duncan on YouTube, where he goes through the instance, the controversial instance, and he talks about them, talks about if they've been an error or not, what the referee department's view on each one is. I think it's been really, really good, really refreshing that we get that information, because people will make mistakes. You know, there's lots of people who'll be raging in the comments about this, quite rightly, but you understand as well that everyone does make mistakes in their job. That is absolutely part of it. But at the same time, these are crucial moments in cup finals. 3-3, the game is poised, Derek, absolutely poised. And if Rangers get a penalty there, then they're in an extraordinarily good position.
Game-changing. It's absolutely game-changing, yeah.
So and you just have to make sure, from a Rangers point of view, if you're a Rangers executive, if you're Patrick Stewart, that you're nailing this in the first week and you're getting to the bottom of it. Because absolutely, this needs to be 100% locked down as to what happened. And it needs to make sure that factual decisions are getting properly checked by VAR going forward. Because it's outrageous that this wasn't dealt with.
Well, I've said before the referee should be full-time. Alan Muir is full-time on VAR, isn't he? So I'm not too sure what he's doing there, whether he's turned the channel or not looking at the screen. Who knows what's going on in there? But yeah, like you say, Jonny, it is damning. Chris Boyd, yesterday on the Sun's Go Ballistic show, says it's a penalty. It doesn't matter where you start pulling your shirt. It's where you let go. The player is in the box. Players can have a go at John Beaton, but I thought he refereed the game very well. From where he was, he felt as if it was a foul. The issue here is that the VAR has let John Beaton down. Alan Muir was a VAR and Frank Connor was the assistant VAR. What are they doing? There is really no excuse. You have the video there and you should see it. There is no reason for them to miss this. The pull of the shirt finishes inside the box. John Beaton has missed it on the field, which I can totally understand, but for two people to miss it on a screen is not good enough. It's time to stand up and ask questions. If I'm Patrick Stewart or Fraser Thornton, who started at Rangers on Monday, the first thing I'm doing is demanding a meeting with the SFA, with Willie Collum and Ian Maxwell. They're going to have to lead Rangers. The time is now to be asking questions. There's no getting away from it. He continued, Rangers fans will want Patrick Stewart to ask a question. The SFA provide the match officials, and I'd want to get to the bottom of why the VAR didn't intervene, because it's not good enough. Willie has been out there and transparent, so I'd want to get to the bottom of this. They need to get to the bottom of why the penalty wasn't given. And he also added on about a few months ago, it was a laugh and a joke about Rangers always getting penalties. I wonder what people are saying now. And so that is what he had to say on that situation. See, listen, my point of view is this. I don't think the officials in this country, it's a small pool of officials you've got for these high stakes matches, Jonny. And I know this won't. I'm not too sure if you would agree with this, but I think the game is too big for the calibre of match officials we've got in this country. Whenever Rangers play in the Europa League, when are you ever talking about the referees or the VAR or whatever? You're never doing that. I think it's about time that the SFA look at bringing in the best possible officials. And if that means going abroad to get them, then so be it. Pay the cash, get them in for these matches. I think it would help massively. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I do agree with your point about European refs. I also think when you go into Europe, they put up with less of the physical stuff, which is a major bugbear of mine going back 20 years, that Scottish referees are just, they allow too high a threshold in terms of the physicality in Scottish football and allowing teams to use that as an equaliser, which I don't think is the right move for our game. I think we should get back to the standards of European football. So you don't have pundits saying things like, oh, well, he would have got away with that in Scotland. You know, that's the kind of attitude that I think is problematic. Listen, I've said for a long time, Derek, the referees need to be better. I don't like to pile on, but they do. And I think the first thing that should be considered by the game, and let's not be around the bush, Rangers are a very, very big part of the game in Scotland. The SPFL is a members' organisation, but the game in Scotland, I think, should come together and try and bring in full-time referees. How can anyone be as good as they can be when they're part-time at something? They can't be. They can't be. If they were full-time, they would be better. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So that would be the big thing that I would try, Derek, before you move to bringing in foreign referees. I think they need to be at a standard where they're working 40 hours a week on their craft and making themselves absolutely the best they can possibly be. If they do that, I think you'll see better use of VAR. I think you'll see better decision-making on the pitch. And I think we'll see an improvement. But is there the political will within the Scottish game to spend the money that would require? Because a lot of these guys that are high up in refereeing have got major careers in other fields. You know, we saw the leader of the Tory party was, a prominent linesman for a long time. So I mean, you're talking about guys on big salaries and good jobs, lawyers, accountants, etc., who do this in their part-time. So you're going to need to offer a salary that's commensurate with pulling these people out of these kind of professions and commensurate with the level of abuse, conspiracy theory that they have to put up with.
Just on European refs, absolutely, Marcus says, other than the Jeffrey sending off in Europe, I agree with you, Derek. Still the worst decision I've ever seen, I think, watching the game, that sending off for Jeffrey. But I get your point. That aside, you very rarely are talking about the officials. For me, it's all about getting...
It's not to say there's not bad decisions by European refs, of course.
Yeah,
of course there is.
But the game's too big for this to pick from a small pool of not properly qualified officials for me. I mean, look at clubs. Clubs go and bring in the best talent, don't they, from overseas if they have to. I think
they're properly qualified. I mean, they've got all their your badges and all that, and they're doing all that. The point for me, Derek, is you cannot say, it's silly to say that part-time refs can be as prepared as full-time refs. It's impossible. So to me, it's about preparation, practice, and all those factors. Because I mean, like to be a journalist, you go to university or you go to college and you do a couple of years. You've got the badges. You know, you've got the certificate to say that you've done it. But it's only when you get out in the field and you do it that you get better at it. Or in our cases, maybe not. But it's that's just life in any profession or any job.
Yeah. Just a heads up, folks, I will be getting on a proper experienced former referee to discuss 3 big incidents from the game on Sunday. A little later on, 12 noon, we'll be getting the good Reverend Mike McCurry on to discuss those incidents. We'll get his take on them all. So that will be going live on the Extra channel. It will be released to everyone immediately afterwards as well. But if you want to get your questions in, then feel free to do so. But we'll be interested to hear his take on, I think, the 3 big incidents. The Diamandi trip is one. Cerny, as we've just been talking about, and Kasper Schmeichel's antics inside the penalty area during the penalty shootout, Jonny, which is something that I think doesn't bode well, doesn't look good for John Beaton, who was staring right at it, I think. So it will be interesting to hear what Mike McCurry's views on that are.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the bigger one is the Diamandi trip. While I get that there's a bit of upset about Schmeichel, and he certainly shouldn't have been inside the box, let alone in the Engels one where he's walking towards walking towards Jack Butland as the ball's being struck. I mean, that's just outrageous and shouldn't have been allowed. But the rules are now about encroachment that it has to materially affect either the keeper or the taker. So it wouldn't have been retaken. It just should have been stopped. Schmeichel should have been told to get back. And it was symptomatic of John Beaton not really having control of that situation and the way Schmeichel was behaving, which I think is more minor than the other two, but still pretty serious and something that he needs to be, I think, reprimanded over. The other one, as I say, the Diamandi trip, I can't say for sure, Derek, that it was a trip because the footage I've seen is very, very grainy. I'd love to have seen.
It doesn't fall though if there's not. I don't think he falls on his own accord, Jonny.
I agree. But what I'm saying is that the footage that I've seen is very grainy, and I would have loved to have seen Premier Sports focus on it more in the moment because you see him going down, and you're going, is he falling? I assumed he'd slipped on the pitch.
Yeah.
But the more and more you see that, and if you see it really slowed down, it does look like Kuhn's tripped him and then run it in the box. And Diamandi is certainly gets up straight away after the moment and is appealing to the referee about being tripped. The thing about that, Derek, I've talked about factual and subjective. The first one that we're talking about here is absolutely factual and a scandal because it's factual. This one is more subjective because it comes into the realms of was it enough contact, etc., etc. And, with grainy footage, everyone on here will be screaming that absolutely there was enough contact because everyone's Rangers fans, everyone's wanting to see that outcome. But I think you have to be honest and say, until you see it in really good footage and you can see what the contact looked like, you can't tell. But what I would say is, it looks to me like a foul. That based on that footage that I've seen.
Yeah.
And it looks to me like it's something VR should have been holding the play for quite a while and having a right good slowed down look at.
Yeah.
And even potentially showing it to the referee and letting him see it to make his own judgment call because it looked to me like a pretty tight one.
Yeah.
Why that didn't happen? I mean, they were very, very quick. They were very, very quick to restart. I don't know. Once again, you start to ask questions of that VAR team. But I think it's important, subjectivity versus fact. One is absolutely subjective. One is absolutely fact. And that's why those two are massively different. But listen, my opinion is that's a trip, and it should have been that goal should have been ruled out.
I agree.
Based on what I've seen, I might change my mind if I saw it with more clarity. But that's how I see that one, Derek, at the moment. But certainly, it was another example where, and I think it was just the game was just so intense and so crazy, and there was so much going on in every corner of every frame that things just moved on. Like in terms of the broadcast, and listen, I've been in the press box in Hampden many a time where you wouldn't get a sense of what was happening. You don't have the view to kind of really see things.
Yeah.
But certainly watching the game on the telly, these moments, these two moments that we've discussed, they weren't kind of discussed very, almost at all.
No. It's quite ironic as well. They demanded one at the trip on him. I mean, he was penalised for an apparent trip that the slightest of touches on Matt O'Reilly last season, if you remember, I thought was an absolute disgrace how Celtic were awarded a penalty. Jack Butland restored a bit of justice from that, but I think there was very little contact there, minimal, if anything, and I think there's probably arguably a bit more contact in this one. But it would be interesting to hear what Mike McCurry has to say on that. But like I say, folks, 12 noon, we'll be going live with Mike and get his views on that. Let's talk about on-field matters, Jonny. John Souttar is out for several weeks, the manager confirmed. Huge blow for Rangers, there's no doubt about it. Now, I know the club said to be keen on adding another defender anyway in January, given the injury sustained by Cashin Weirjo. I don't think if we see him again in the Rangers jersey, then happy days. But I'm not holding out much hope, I've got to say.
Yeah,
John Souttar is a real gutter for him. I think he's probably arguably Rangers' best performer this season. He's really made that right centre-back position his own. Rangers, I think, will need to bring in, 2 centre-backs in January?
Well, they're certainly going to bring in one, Derek.
Yeah.
I think if John Souttar's out for 6 to 8 weeks, which is kind of roughly what I would expect,
yeah,
then I think you only need to bring in one. Because you've already got Balogun there, you've got Proper there, you've got Leon King there, you've got Souttar out for only that period. So I wouldn't be going crazy and signing 2 players, and then you've got guys who are then not going to. What? I mean, listen, I'd have been behind that idea up until the last 2 games, but I think Robin Proper is starting to look like he's starting to get it. I thought he was excellent against Spurs. Had a couple of dodgy moments at the start of the game. He was torched by Nicholas Kuhn for pace. But let's be honest, Nicholas Kuhn is Celtic's best player. He's going through a purple patch and his form's been excellent. And I think he would give anyone a hard time. Jeffrey's coped with really, really good players in Europe, as has Ridvan, and both of them had a really, really difficult time against Kuhn. So I don't think we should be battering Proper for that. I think for the rest of the time, he was really good. Used the ball well, confident. And one of the commentators there has just absolutely nailed it. I think when Proper is not against a big, burly, elbows centre forward of the type that Scottish football kind of specialises in, he's a good player. And it's unsurprisingly he did so well in the Dutch league. And he was such a performer last season at that level. The problem is that Scottish football's full of these guys. I'd probably now give Proper to the end of the season.
Yeah.
If you could get rid of him in January for a good price and get an alternative in that was more suited to Scottish football, I'd consider it. But maybe he's earned in the last 2 games a little bit more time to just adapt, because we've seen in the past, we've certainly seen with Igaman, you just have to look at him, that some players just take a little bit more time to get used to life in Scottish football, life with the idiosyncratic way that we play football, and perhaps he's starting to do that. So I'd say I'm erring to giving him a little bit more time now and just bring in one, Derek. What you think too?
On Proper, I thought first half I was concerned, like you say, he was roasted down that Celtic's right, Rangers left-hand side, and I felt that Celtic were looking to target that side of the pitch. But second half, I thought he was tremendous for Rangers. Really dealt with anything that was thrown at him, was commanding. If he can continue in that vein of form, then I have absolutely no issue with it. And like you say, Tottenham, I thought he was good as well. It's the games when you come up against a big physical striker that a lot of the teams in the SPFL have that sort of ruffle him up. That's when he said it himself. He's taking time to adjust to the football that he's used to in the Eredivisie. But I would not be getting rid of him, put it that way, before Rangers have got a replacement in. There's been a few comments as well on the forgotten man, if you like. Scott D says, give Nsiala a chance. Someone we spoke about briefly on videos before. You're shaking your head. Don't think he's ready by all accounts, Jonny?
No, Josh has watched him a few times in the youth team, guys, and he's really, really raw. He's really, really raw. He's not ready yet. So, listen, you can throw any youngster in, but you'll soon see the damage they cause if they're not ready. And from everything I hear about Nsiala, he's just not quite ready yet.
Yeah,
certainly not for big games. So, I don't think that's a starter.
Yeah. So that is the situation on the defensive front. Overall, Jonny, can you get your thoughts on the result on Sunday, where that leaves Philippe Clement at this moment in time? It is, I've said it on yesterday's show and on Sunday after the game, I found it hard to criticise Rangers given the effort levels and the character and the fight that they showed on Sunday, but he's still looking for that elusive first victory over Celtic. For me, the New Year's game, it's must win.
It's huge, the New Year's game, but let's talk about the Cup final. I thought Rangers were excellent in the Cup final. And they were undone in areas where we know that they're weak. So I thought first half, Rangers were absolutely outstanding. The press, caused Celtic so many problems. I've watched all Celtic's Champions League games so far this season, and I don't think I've seen a team outside of Dortmund that's caused Celtic so many problems, nicking the ball off their feet. It was really well organised. There was identity, there was passion, there was grit, there was determination. I've not spoken to a single Rangers fan that had a problem with the performance. I think the performance was really, really good. Where there were areas of the performance that maybe didn't live up to what we saw in the first 50 or 60 minutes. Well, I'd say 50 minutes because Celtic had a sort of spell after the miss on the 4-on-1 miss. I think it's the bench. The first 11 looked really, really strong and really, really fit and went at it, but justifiably, given the amount of pressing they were doing, they did tire, and some of those players looked like they were out on their feet as the game went on. Yeah. Unfortunately, you can't swap like for like with quality. You just can't do it. The squad isn't there to do that. When Clement was able to do that with Danilo, you saw, for example, I think Danilo added a new dimension to the team when he came on, caused Celtic problems, because that's like for like quality swap. That's something different as opposed to something worse. But when you introduce Dessers, when you introduce Dowell, I think Yilmaz is another one who's like for like in terms of quality with Jeffy. I'm not quite sure out of those two who would be my first pick, to be honest. But I thought Yilmaz struggled against Kuhn, as I've already said, just as much as Jeffy had. But that's probably understandable. But the lack of quality, I think, on the bench was where it kind of fell away for Rangers. And listen, there was one key thing, Derek, and I've moaned about this consistently after Old Firm games for quite a long time, and it's Callum McGregor and the way he's been allowed to dominate and the way he's been allowed to stroll about and strut through the middle of the park. We saw it with Scott Brown before him. We've seen it now with McGregor. And I thought for the first time, Philippe Clement nailed how to deal with Callum McGregor. Callum McGregor never had a sniff. He was very poor in the game, gave the ball away a lot. Yeah. And I thought the combination on him of Barami, who was very, very disciplined and very, very good in the game, just tracking McGregor. It was like his head was constantly rotating like a telescope. You know, he was in a submarine. He was always looking over his shoulder. Where's McGregor? Where's McGregor? He did such a good job on that, Derek, because a lot of people have tried that. Tom Lawrence has tried it. Cantwell tried it. I mean, how far back do you want to go? So many people have tried to get zeroed in on McGregor and have failed. And I thought Barami did it as well as anyone's ever done it in the last 4 or 5 years. And I think he was ably assisted in that by Yanis Hadji, who I thought was really effective on the left, was everywhere on the pitch, Derek, all over getting involved in the game, but also he was allowing, he was picking up McGregor when he couldn't get there. He was running back, tracking back. I thought he was everywhere, Hadji. And listen, he didn't provide a decisive moment of quality, but the sheer effort and determination that I saw from Yanis Hadji, I thought deserved real praise, because he's not that kind of player, but he showed that he can do the dirty side of the game. And that's why Yanis Hadji should never have been out and should never have been allowed to leave on loan.
I know.
Yanis Hadji is a top Scottish domestic level player. And the idea that you loan him out to La Liga, I mean, that was another bad
Michael Beale, wasn't it?
Another bad decision. And that's lost a year of his career when he could have been performing for Rangers. And then the whole thing, the contractual wrangle that's been going on at the start of the season. Hadji's a guy that in the 55 season, I think he got 23 goals and assists. That's a level of delivery in this league that Rangers have been missing. They've been so sorely missing it, Derek. And, you know, the guy, he said that he loved the club, and, you know, he performed like he loves the club. Yeah. So that's why I was on Twitter slightly excitably praising him for his performance, because I felt there was so much there to give him a real pat on the back over.
Yeah, I thought he was terrific on Sunday. A couple of points coming in before we wrap up today's show. Kenneth says, good luck to the team tonight against them in the Glasgow Cup final. We'll be going along. Yeah, you got Rangers youngsters taking on Celtic tonight in the Glasgow Cup final. So, best of luck to them. And this comment caught my eye from Steve a little earlier on, Jonny. He says, Jonny, did I see you at the ice rink in EK on Saturday? Ginger beardy guy, maybe grinning whilst you were on the phone. Not a psycho, I promise.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
There you go.
Hi, Steve.
Yeah. Good that you're tuning in, Steve. Fantastic stuff. Right, just a heads up again, folks. I will be back at 12 noon with Mike McCurry. We hope you can join us for that. And big thank you to Jonny as ever. Always entertaining when we've got you on, Jonny. So good to have you back on.
Yeah, always enjoy coming on in the morning, Derek, and chatting to you. It's been cathartic to get all this off my chest because I've been waiting to say it all since Sunday. But it's I think there's just to close out, and I know you're trying to stop me here, and I'm trying to extend it on.
Extend it, go extend away.
But I'd just say I think there's a lot to be positive about right now at Rangers. There's a new CEO coming in the building who, from what I'm hearing, is already impressing people. He's already shown he's got that Manchester United quality. He's ready for a big club. He knows what to do. So there's that. And then when you factor in the last 5 weeks, I don't think anyone saw that these last 5 weeks coming. I certainly didn't, Derek. I thought the manager was done. But I think what we've seen in terms of the performances, the identity, the attacking quality, it's all been stuff that's been missing. I never would have thought that this would have happened.
No.
But there's been so much to see and to say, right, it's finally clicking. Now, listen, Derek, it could all come undone. It could all fall apart. But I think you're starting to see the trajectory now. And that performance against Celtic was excellent. I thought the performance against Spurs was even better. I really thought that was outstanding. And I don't think Rangers have anything to fear going into this game on January 2nd. And I don't think we would have been saying that 6 weeks ago. There's a good foundation there. If you look at the team, you look at players like Jeffy, Ridvan, Souttar,
Raskin,
Sterling, Raskin, Diamandi, Egeman. I know Cerny's on loan, but he's looking good. Barami. There is a lot of quality in that side. And if you can go in January and get 2, maybe 3 high-quality players that can improve 3 positions, say, and move some of those players that we know aren't good enough on, I think by the end of this season, if the trajectory continues, Rangers can be in a right good place. And all of a sudden, as can often be the case in Scottish football, everything changes.
Yeah.
You can't just switch on a light and expect Rangers to become a machine. That's not going to happen. But what I think we've seen is a sudden clicking of some of the gears, and that has led to this improvement in performance. And for me, Derek, there's a stark improvement, and that I think is clear for anyone who knows anything about football. And I think there's room for optimism finally, because there's been a long time around this club. It's been chaos, and it's been tumult, and it's been who's the chairman, who's the chief executive, what's going on with the stadium.
I know.
I think 2024 has been a terrible, terrible year for this football club. But I think going into 2025, fans can be a lot more positive about the trajectory that the club is on. And listen, you never know how things will pan out, but I think they've started to address some of the problems that were at the root of 2024's malaise. And it's going to take time, but I think as long as the manager continues to make sure the team shows this quality of play, this aggressive style, front foot, not bowing down to anyone, standing tall against teams like Spurs,
Yeah.
Going up against Celtic and giving them a really hard time. I think the results against Celtic will come. And I think the results for Rangers will come. But they need to maintain that level of performance, Derek.
Yeah. Comment from Bluebells or Blue Echoes says, it certainly feels a lot better to be a Rangers fan right now than it did 4 weeks ago. Gutted about Sunday, but we are progressing. That's all I ever asked for. Need consistency now. Absolutely. It's all about stringing together those victories heading up into the New Year's game. I think Rangers are going to defeat Celtic in that game. I've seen enough over the last since that Dundee United game. I couldn't see where Clement was going from then. No. He said it himself. He had no credit in the bank, Jonny, but the revival has been most welcome. It's been good. It's been enjoyable to watch Rangers again. What we've said numerous times prior to that started winning games again was the football was turgid. It was boring to watch. It was a real chore to watch Rangers. You've seen the attendances at the Dundee United game. It was vastly empty by the end of it. It looked like the end of days, but something's happened, and the players don't think it's coincidental that Hamza Igeman now getting a run in the team. Yanis Hadji, of course, getting a run. Danilo's come back and is looking decent up front as well. And yeah, certainly a lot to be encouraged about going forward. So
you had Cortez into the mix.
Well, I wanted to bring that up, Jonny. I wanted to bring that up. Scott said that Cortez to come in if he can stay fit. Were you not slightly surprised? I mean, he was an unused sub on Thursday and he was in a suit on Sunday. I think that would have been surely that would have been a better option than, for example, a Kieran Dowell coming on.
Well, Kieran Dowell's playing in centre midfield, so I don't think you would play Cortez in there. What I would say around Cortez is you just have to look at the way the manager handles players who are injured. It's very, very softly in. So yeah. I think the days of a player returns from injury, he's back in training on the Monday and he's thrown into the game on Saturday. That is not the way the manager operates. No chance.
Yeah.
And he talks about himself. He's spoken at press conferences about having a really good injury record. He listens to sports science. It's part of the way he manages. And listen, you've got to hope that that's going to create a situation for Rangers where they have less injuries. And to be fair, this season, I think that's what's happened. It's not been an injury-plagued season like it has been in the past. I mean, we've got the Souttar injury.
Just the usual guys that are out, Jonny. Matondo, Ridvan's been out. It's you know what I mean, Lawrence.
Yeah, and listen, there's been a couple other ones as well. Cortez obviously been the most damaging, probably. Yeah. But injuries are going to happen in football matches and to football teams. That's inevitable. But it's about managing the volume. And I think there was a point in last year there was maybe 12 or 13 people out. I mean, I think injuries ultimately derailed the title for Rangers last year.
Yeah,
you know, injuries to Cortez and Sima. Yeah, just absolutely neutered their ability to attack down that left side. So
yeah,
it's something that the manager has to focus on and make sure that he gets right. And that's going to be a big part of the season ahead.
Yep. Before we go, a big thank you to Bluebells or Blues. Just gifted 5 Rangers Review memberships. That is very kind of you, sir. Thank you for that. So do go and take advantage of that. Right. We'll wrap up there. Thank you to you all. Good show this morning. And if I don't speak to you at 12, then enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Bye for now.